All right, welcome back to another episode of the Fletch Podcast with the Memories with Mumbo, episode 3, version 3. Welcome back, Dad.
Glad to be back.
About once a week, it used to be like once a week, give a phone call on the way home from work, and now it's turned into once a week. Let's save the phone call. Let's just chit-chat before and after we record an episode to catch up on the times. And then we can record a podcast while we're at it.
All right, you bet. Knock them both out one time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we talked about last episode, like at the tail end, we gave a little sneak peek what we're going to talk about this episode and probably the next episode. Like we'll cut it into 2 episodes here. A little bit of pheasant hunting, and it looks like you got dressed up for the occasion.
Yeah, I was just telling you, like I was saying earlier, Mom picked out my pheasant hunting hat from the Huron team shoot that we go to, and she said I better throw on my orange jacket so nobody shoots me while we're on the podcast.
That's funny. So we had mentioned it kind of early on in the very first episode. You were kind of more introduced to hunting. Pheasant hunting was kind of your introduction to hunting. True, false?
Oh, absolutely true. No, back I think I was 10 years old, I think, when I first started shooting at pheasants. I don't know that I really ever hit anything, but had a little 20 gauge that your great grandpa let me use, and then eventually grandma would take me out and just kind of drive the back roads of Perkins County, Nebraska, and we'd look for pheasants crossing the road or wanting to poke up their head in a ditch or something and get out and go on. And that's where I sent the pictures of the birds there that you got, and the one that's mounted standing up. Well, that was my very first pheasant. First thing I'd ever shot. And we got that and actually called my Uncle Bob, which I don't believe you ever even got to know Uncle Bob. He was up in Lyons, Colorado. Your grandpa's brother, and he told us how to wrap the bird and how to take care of it and freeze it to take it to the taxidermy. And he ended up taking it to his guy up there, Lyons or Longmont or wherever it was. But that bird, he'd been through a lot of years. Shot him, probably 5 miles north of Brandon, Nebraska, where your grandma's mom and dad, great grandparents, lived and farmed. And we just were out driving along, your grandma and I, and saw one cross the road, and I got out and started walking this ditch, and that gun was about as tall as I was, I think. It sure did seem like it at the time anyway. And that bird got up, and just like I'd been doing it years and years before, and all of a sudden that one went down low. It was just kind of, whoa, holy cow, look what I did. And got it. Our hunt was done. We got one bird, and that was 1,000 times better than any other hunt we ever went on. So we went back and I was a 10-year-old proud hunter when I got back to Brandon, Nebraska, and got a chance to show my grandpa, your great grandpa, and kind of showed off and just kind of had the whole experience and did that. And like I said, took it back home there to Arvada and ended up getting it mounted and met up with Uncle Bob and got it back. And I think that bird's been through 2 houses, 3 houses, 4 houses in Denver, or in Arvada, excuse me, and came up to Wyoming, I know, at least 1 year while I was at school there when I had Miles, the goat that we talked about.
Yeah.
So now he's back up in Wyoming. He's got a broken wing and a kind of pinned up there in one spot, and a little paint going on his nose, that the way they used to do it, is the guy that did it all those years ago. Heck, that would have been 50 years ago.
Holy
that
cow.
I got. Yeah, so he's he's got some years on him. And unfortunately, we both do, but we're still hanging together, and a lot of good memories on that very first hunt. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, for all it's worth, it looks to be in really good shape. Like you said, it's an old mount, and you kind of see some really old mounts of any creature, bird, fish, mammal, whatever, deer, elk. You see some old taxidermy, and they look really beat up and not very good, not very well put together. And you said it's kind of pinned together and kind of falling apart a little bit, but not nearly as bad as some of those like really old mounts and poor mounts that you see. And so it's held together really well over the years.
Yeah, no, it's and pinned. I think it's just keeping the wing up where it probably came loose or broke or something, but still together enough where I really don't even think I have pins in it since we got back up here. But just like I said, the chip, fade wise, it still got those great colors that a rooster pheasant carries, and still has all those in good shape, and hasn't really faded out a bit. And no,
Right.
been very happy with it. And definitely, like I said, our very first one, it's not a monster pheasant. It's not a unique pheasant to the eye. It's just the story that goes, being the very first one, and just the memories that go with that, with your grandma out and just the two of us. And who would have thought that it would ever happen the way it did? If I had to form it up and kind of playwright my own scene, it would have been with an uncle or grandpa or somebody, but nope, it was grandma and I just driving the country in the old beat up truck, and pulled over and shot it. And now we got it 50 years later.
Right. Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. So you sent me all the pictures beforehand, and I quickly scrolled through them and was like, oh yeah, those are exactly how I remember them. But was it 4 or 5 of them that you have mounted?
No, those I got 3.
Or,
two.
Oh,
I got
okay.
2 different pictures of each flying pheasant.
Okay.
We have those in the house. They're not out here in the game room. We've always kind of started when we were back in Arvada, when you were in high school there. We had them on each side of the TV, and we kind of liked that look. So we went ahead and did that here.
Yes.
I don't know if it'll ever change down the road, but yeah, we got those 2, and then the one here. And if there's another unique story, like I said last time, I'll get him going too. But now that's kind of where we're at with our pheasants. The other one, the one there on the left of the TV, which would have been the one that's just kind of gliding. It's a glide mount, not really a takeoff mount. That was our first Labrador. I'd never hunted. I'd never had a retrieve and a hunting dog. I was raised with Boston Terriers, and they're not a hunting dog.
Right.
But when Mom and I got married, and we had Bree, and decided we were going to get a black lab. We both wanted a Labrador retriever, and heard that they were great with kids, and I was still into hunting pretty good, and took him out and just trained him on my own. Took him out in the fields around there in Arvada, which back then we still had some fields. Now they're got apartments on them or shopping malls. But
Right.
I took him out with a lead rope, and first time I took him hunting, we went out to a good friend of mine, Jim Bracco's. They used to live probably 3 miles from where we lived, and at the time it was kind of right on the edge of the country, and now there's a school across the way and everything else. But we would shoot geese out there. They'd fly right over their greenhouses, and we'd pluck them out. They were in unincorporated Jeffco, and you can still to this day shoot there if you really wanted to. You're just responsible liable for your shot. But I had Jake out there, and I had done about everything I was supposed to do with retrieving and with flushing and doing everything. And all that was good with, upland birds, pheasants and stuff. And I had this bright idea to take him out there and shoot a goose. And we went out there, and kabam, off it went. And that goose come falling out of the sky. And I looked around for Jake to go get him, and he was nowhere to be found. Our gun went off, and he hightailed it back, and he was hiding and shivering underneath that truck of mine. And I went and got the goose and thought that I'd ruined him forever. And, next thing we know, we take him out there to Nebraska, and fast forward on to, well, it was probably 6 months till opening, till November, because we probably shot that in March. But we got out there and did just fine bird hunting. And, a little bit different, back then. Like I said, it was the first lab we had, first time I'd ever trained a dog for hunting. And I was totally against electronics. I didn't have a collar, electric collar, no e-collar, no nothing, no whistle. It was me whistling myself and just yelling Jake, to come back over or hunt over here, whatever. Don't even remember what commands we used back then, but we got out there hunting, and sure enough, he got on scent and kicked up a bird, went and retrieved it, brought it right back. It was a wrestling match to get those birds away from Jake. He nothing like Maverick is now. He don't just bring them to you and say, here, let's go get another one. It's no, darn it, I worked hard for this bird. It's my bird. You're not, I'll bring it back to you, but we're gonna have a little tug of war here with, before we go get another one. And there were plenty of times that I had big old rips in the breast or whatever it was, leg missing or torn off or from our wrestling match trying to get the bird from him. But he ended up being a really good dog and he hunted really hard. It really just thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was, like I said, my first experience with a hunting dog, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. We talk about stories, and I know that's kind of getting off the path here, but we would hunt with good friends of mine. Tim across, right next door to us up here was back there. Mark Martinez introduced me to Tim, and we had some buddies that would go out, and we were hunting corners of cornfields where we just walk all the tall grass, CRP, that was around the circle of corn. And for some reason, I went and blocked this one corner, had Mark and Tim, and I want to say Mark DiDoretta was with us. There was 4 of us, I believe. It might have been 3. Anyway, we got, I said, go ahead and take Jake. He'll be fine. Just keep him away from that corn. If he gets in that corn, he's just going to go. He's just going to get in there, scent bird, see a bird, smell, whatever it is, and he's going to get in that corn. Just keep him away. There's plenty of scent over in the corner that you don't need him over there. Well, that lasted for about 30 seconds, and off in the corner he went. Walked that corner. I think, if I recall, like I said, it was 50 years ago, but, well, not 50, but anyway, I'm sure we got some birds, but they got back, and I was blocking, and, I said, well, how many did we get? 2, 3, whatever it was, 1, 2. And I said, well, how'd Jake do? And they looked at each other, and I looked at them. And I said, or not Jake. Yeah, Jake. I said, well, where is he? He said, Martinez said, Mo. He said, he got in that corn, and I never saw him again. I don't know what happened. I said, oh, man. I started yelling. We started honking the horn. I didn't have any whistles, didn't have an e-collar, didn't have any type of buzz, vibration, nothing.
Yeah.
Well, we got to the corner of the road that went down, looking straight south and looking back to the west. Couldn't see him. So we went to the west so we could go down to that corner and look to the south on the west side of the road, looking back to the east. Couldn't see him. Pretty soon I started seeing all these birds get up over there in the left-hand kind of corner of this circle, if that makes sense, a corner in a circle, but they were out there quite a ways. And I said, you know what, I'll bet you Jake's out there in the middle of that cornfield just having a heyday. We left. We used to always hunt with 2-way radios, and we had them there, and I left. I want to say it was Tim with a 2-way radio, left him on that corner, and I said, just watch this way, watch straight to the south, and then back to the east on this corner. And if you see him, radio on us, and I'll come get him. He'll come to me. He was he was so spookish and skitty when we'd go out and bird hunt that if it wasn't me, he was pretty much saying, the heck with you, I'm going to go bird hunt until Dad gets me. So then we went to the other side. Pretty soon you could see the birds now are getting up kind of on the east side of the circle and on the south side. I said, well, I'll bet you there he is over there. I took Mark Martinez over on that side, and he had a radio. Well, pretty soon we got this field almost surrounded, and it's starting to get dark. I mean, we've been out this for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, seeing all these birds pop up different parts of this cornfield, which wasn't cut.
Yeah, tall corn.
Tall corn and a lot of scent, a lot of birds. There was always a lot of birds. So he was just having a heyday. Well, I think he got so darn tired, eventually he drug his tongue across the ditch and got into the road in between Mark Martinez and I. And we saw him, and pretty soon Mark says, that's Jake. I've got him right here, Mumbo. Let's go. Or Mojo, let's go. So we got him back, and he was just panting away. Drank about 5 gallons of water, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, that was quite the hunting trips we used to have with old Jake. That's for sure.
That's fun. That's funny. Yeah. So, it's just funny working dogs and how we've adapted our training styles now, and not that we rely on electronics, but the convenience is definitely way more easing on the mind of, okay, if something crazy happened, they really want to take off, we can rein them back in, so we don't have to spend 4 hours looking for a dog and lose a dog.
Yeah, keeping close. Where if they, his big ordeal, and that kind of happened out on the next pheasant that was up there, the one that was kind of busting out and just starting to open up his wings on the picture I sent you there. He that was south of Grant, Nebraska, and we were staying. Your mom and I it was on our 10th anniversary. No, it wasn't our 10th. It was before that. I want to say like 5th or 6th. And we had pulled the trailer out, and we were camping at Tim Hendrick's place. He was your great grandfather's farmhand, and he always said, if we ever wanted a place to pull the trailer to it, we'd just go out there and camp and be able to hunt all his land right there. And he was really good at hunting access. And so we went out, and your mom and I were just talking about it today, coming back from Casper, that for some reason, her and I got split up. I kept Jake, and she got on the other side of this berm, kind of weed patch deal, and Tim Wright was over on that side. And I don't know if there was anybody else with us at that time or not, but I think Jake and I had kicked up a couple birds, a couple of hens, and we might have got a bird or two in there, I don't know. And then we started getting closer, and I see Mom and Jake saw him and say, off he goes, and got closer, and sure enough, a bird gets up, and your mom just pulls on it like she'd been hunting wild birds her whole life, and pulled the trigger, and down that bird went. It was her first wild bird on our anniversary with Jake the mad hunting dog. So that was, it was definitely a unique story just in its own. We were sitting there trying to come up with a whole bunch of details, and we really didn't have anything other than, what it meant to us as far as, and it was a surprise to your mom. I know that we must have had a handful of birds that we had to clean, but I kept that one separate, and ended up having it mounted and flying on the wall. And that way I've always got that to remember, and gave it to her, later on. Might even been for her birthday, because it wasn't done by Christmas, but it was always a good thing to sit there and look at that bird and think, gosh, that's how that all happened, and kind of panned out that way. And just being there with good friends with Tim, and I don't think Michelle at that time was going out hunting. It might have been a friend of his, Donnie, that might have been with us, or Martinez, or whatever it was, but just being her first with Jake, and on our anniversary, it was just that was a special hunt for me. That's for sure.
Yeah, ties it all together. Yeah, that's kind of what all the mounts are all about. And you had said it, I think it was last episode, kind of talking about the art of it. And yeah, they're pretty and they look, to some people they look good. Some people, like you said, they might be a little bit white trash, but it's a lot more about the memories. And when people buy paintings or decorations, there's really not a whole lot that ties somebody to it unless they painted it themselves, or they, unless there's some really one-off circumstance. But the taxidermy, and whether or not it is white trash, it is something where it's such a unique story to you or to the person, and to have that memory and then be able to share it with people, instead of being like, oh yeah, I paid $2,000 for that painting there when I first saw it. I just had to have it and bought it. And that's kind of their story. But you get to share a heartfelt moment like that with the taxidermy. And I think it's definitely way more special and definitely more unique to have taxidermy and cool stories like that.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yep, I would agree 100%. I wouldn't necessarily call it, white trash. And I don't think there's anything trashy about them. I think it's more of a. I think my wording last week was redneck art, but
oh yeah,
I think I don't think, I know it is a form of art, and years ago, and I don't know if it dates back to Papa when we were doing it or where I heard it, but I've just always been one that, you respect that animal, and you respect the stories and the memories that went with it. When you go into a restaurant or you go into somebody's house and they got Christmas decorations hanging off of it, or different things that are hanging on the antlers. And, I just kind of always been pretty religiously hardcore about, that's the animal that I have this fond memory of, and the respect of that animal, and doing everything that, I treat it like it's still needs to be treated right. And that's the way we do it. And I think it looks good, and it comes across clean, and it's, to me, it's every one of these animals in here, all the birds inside the house as well as out here, they look just as they were when I took them in the field. The fish, look just like they were swimming in the stream, in the lake, whatever it is. But that's just kind of what I do, and I know that that's sweet. The hardest thing about them is keeping the dust off of them. Other than that,
right.
It's pretty clean, and just definitely great memories for me.
No, for sure. And I think kind of the last point on taxidermy is, that I would want to bring up. It's definitely something where you can't just take it to any old Joe Schmo. And, you kind of have to do your research and understand well, maybe take it to somebody who's a little bit more reputable and look at kind of what they've done, kind of like an artist. I mean, like you said, it is a form of art, but, like an artist, see what work they've done before, and know if you like how they've done taxidermy before. And kind of how you said also how you had it in the field. If it was turned a certain way when you took it, if it was looking over its left shoulder, and when you pulled the trigger or what have you, let go of the arrow, having those types of things, just those fine details, and to be able to, now some people are able to take a picture, and like you did with pictures from the field with Miles, just take a picture maybe while they were still alive, even while you were kind of chasing them down, to take a picture and be like, this is what they look like, and I really want him to look just like this in the mount. And it's incredible how well some taxidermists are able to, like, just make a spitting image of something like that. And so it's definitely not something where you just take a dead animal and plop it up on the wall, and obviously all the steps in between, but you don't just put it up there. There is an art to it and a decor to it, not just, oh, it's dead and let's put it in its thing and on its fitting and hang it up on the wall. There's definitely an art to it.
Yeah, it is. There's something, you have to have a lot of patience. I've got a chance to go down, like the antelope, Tom there in Rollins. He did all those. My whitetail deer, which you'll see, one of these, Jarla here in town does that. The guy that did my pheasants and a couple of my fish, They're in Wheat Ridge. I would always go and visit with them and kind of look at the work during the process, look at the animal that they're working on for me and see some of their other work while they're working on them and hear some of their stories and visit with them and just to see some of the different things that they do. It truly is art. And, just the stuff that they make that's unique about each one of those pieces of art that they're doing with the individual shoulder mounts, head mounts, or horn mounts, or whatever it is. It's unique. It's a neat trait that they have. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, you kind of covered all. You only have the 3 mounted pheasants, and that's kind of what we wanted to highlight this episode. Any other tidbits on the ones that you have mounted that you can remember that maybe you want to mention?
It really got us. I do so much bird hunting, and I know we talk about some stories and some things that I got going on now. That's on the upland side of it. I never have got a chance to get totally into the waterfowl on. We did a few straight years of goose hunting, but never really bought into anything like what you're doing with the ducks and all the deep stuff like that. I always just had people that I could go with. But now we've got Maverick, and it goes back to we had Shaylee in there. She was a great hunting dog, great companion. It's just different stories with different dogs and how they work and some of the things that we're doing now that I would have never have dreamt about. And, we can hit on some of those on that next episode, but, it's just a lot of different things that the whole hunting game, has brought and added to my life. And hopefully it adds years to my life with this exercising and everything else you have going on.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good release for me. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I think we'll wrap this one up. And then, like you said, we've got a little bit more to talk about for pheasant, and especially we'll talk a little bit more about the dogs, I think, probably on the next episode. So, for the listeners, stay tuned for, I guess it would be next week, but we're going to cut it here after we get done with this closing and record another episode right after it, talk a little bit more about the same type of stuff. But yeah, any closing thoughts on this one?
I don't believe so. I think it's short and sweet, but it's a good sweet. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you guys listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
Alrighty.